Nothing changes if nothing changes. And I feel like it always has been this way in a subtle way. When it comes to our internal change, for example, if we aren't the ones who posit some type of change or to do the thing necessary for our own change, when does it occur? If we don't wait on certain circumstances and allow them to change us, when will the change happen? And when it comes to, I guess, our circumstances, our events in life, and anything that we want to bring into it, when does it come if not when we allow it to? When we make it, when we forge a way for it to. And what I'm realizing most of all recently is that old keys don't open new doors. It's always the establishment of something new that creates newness within the world. And when I say newness within the world, I really mean new to our own awareness, new to our own perspective. There are a lot of things in this world that have been here so long that we often discredit them. We often allow its beauty and magnificence to be dampened with so much familiarity. And I think we need to sort of allow ourselves to enjoy it. And recently I've been thinking about it, how, even in our times of upheaval, even if in our times of success, our minds tend toward finding something else to solve, finding something else to pause. And I think it's important to sort of give ourselves a chance to appreciate the space we take up, ourselves included within that space. I think a lot of us do things every day that are worth appreciation and applause. And I think that's why, I sort of came to the conclusion that the only way to stop the performance is to give yourself a real audience. It's always about the attention that you give yourself that allows you to do things that may not be normal for you. And when I say normal for you, I mean typical. I mean normal. I mean things that you do on a regular basis. And I think some of the things that we do on a regular basis are perpetuate our own thoughts about the past. Relive the past in our head over and over again and expect some type of different outcome in the future just because we've thought of the past. And if we're not establishing anything new, especially within our thought, then we won't really be tended towards its creation. We can say all we want that we don't want to experience this, we don't want to experience this. But until we start framing our mind towards what do I want to experience and choosing that, then no change really does occur, at least in the sense of our own action and contribution towards that change. I think many of us don't move because we don't know the direction, but I think many of us don't know the direction because we haven't moved. Because we haven't really taken the time to look at our surroundings and look at everything around us and learn how to navigate it. I think in recognizing that there's more to explore, I'm not saying that we know exactly what's out there. I'm saying quite the opposite. I'm saying that we don't know what's out there, and that's all the more reason to find out. I think a lot of us have settled for the comforts of an internal answer or a mind's answer. Like we tell ourselves, oh, we can't do this because blah, blah, blah. And we're comfortable in it because it causes us to not act. It causes us to not put ourselves in a rut of performance. And the only reason that I'm calling it a performance is I think a lot of us reference our own action to the perspectives and opinions of other people and circumstances and events before we ever allow ourselves to fall subject to our own viewpoint, before we let ourselves fall into our own perspective. And I think allowing yourself to fall into your own perspective is really the only way to do anything new with yourself, to make any type of new establishment, new settlement within yourself that allows you to actually occupy the home that is you easily. I think a lot of us have our own home, have our own structure, and we allow it to be in reference to everyone else's. So when we have damage, we think that we're a lot worse off than everyone we see. When we don't have certain things within our house that other people may have, we call ourselves insufficient and wrong. But we never really do reference the things that we have that others don't. We never really give ourselves a validity and strength and appreciation, gratitude for our own individuality and authenticity. None of us are meant to have everything. I don't think that's the way anything is supposed to be. I think we can have anything, we can be anything, but not always everything. When it comes to who we are, it's always going to be a set of choices. You're not going to be mean and nice at the same time because they're the same thing expressed in different ways. And the same thing goes with many emotions. You're not going to be fearful and courageous at the same time because they're the same thing in different expressions. You're not going to be happy and sad at the same time because they're the same thing with different expressions. And until we learn how to choose a side, until we learn how to align ourselves with a specific set of expression of an emotion, of a feeling, then we're just going to be left at odds in allowing our minds, biases, and assignments to decide for us. And when I say biases and assignments, I mean we assign so much meaning to a lot of the things outside of us that we don't really give ourselves meaning in our experience of it. And in allowing ourselves to be subject to the events of the outside world, we sort of perpetuate this narrative that we have nothing to do with it. And, to a subtle extent, of course, we don't control the whole entire grand scheme of fate. We don't control how this person interacts, how that person interacts. But one thing we do control is ourselves, at least as much as we allow ourselves to. And in recognizing your own self-control, you recognize that that's the only type of control that could ever be. The only type of freedom is always in your own ability to control yourself. You can't control the actions of others, and we surely can't control every circumstance in the outside world. So what is the objective if not to control yourself enough to recognize how you can influence those certain things? And in not allowing yourself to be dependent on how everything looks around you, you give yourself the strength and validity to keep moving forward and finding new things. When I said that a lot of us don't move because we don't know which direction to go in or if we're going in the right direction, we have to take a step in order to even posit that. It's not like we're going to find out which direction we want to go by sitting still. We're not going to find it by not doing anything to actually look around us and decide what looks best for us, decide what feels best, take those steps, and if it doesn't work out in that way, decide to turn a different direction and know that that's the wrong direction for you. I think every avenue of rejection, every obstacle that we face, every sort of hindrance on our path can be an opportunity for greater strength, because it's showing you exactly where to funnel your energy into and how to funnel it in a way that allows you to be you. And when we don't allow ourselves to be so dependent on how things look in an external sense, then those type of failures, roadblocks, obstacles don't even register as something that should take away from you. Rather, it allows it to just be. Oh, I just wasn't able to do that. Or not even telling yourself that you're not able to do. In this specific instance, at this specific time, I was unsuccessful at this. But our whole idea of success doesn't really even have to be determined by pass or failure, by aligning something with our expectations. It can be really about our own reaction to it. I think success is always at first a mental thing. It's always a person who thinks that they can actually achieve something that sets out to do it and typically does. A lot of successful people aren't people who thought, oh, I was never going to make it. I'm never going to be able to do anything. None of them really have that mentality. And I think the reason for that is it's always about the belief that you give to yourself. It's always about the newness of the keys that you present to yourself that allow you to open up new doors. Many of us have the same old keys, and I don't necessarily mean that in a sense of our same old self, but in the sense of not allowing ourselves to expand into new territories, new environments, new situations that actually allow us to find something new. We don't branch out. We don't put ourselves out there, at least to ourselves, enough to see the parts of ourselves that actually want to change, let alone the parts of ourselves that are present. Instead, we look in the world and look at everything else present within it, present within other people. When we allow it to be a reference point to ourselves and tell ourselves that we're inadequate or we lack in reference to this certain something. But we'll always lack as long as we have something more to gain. And that's the way it's always going to be. And I hope it stays that way for all of our sakes. When we sort of set out into this journey that is life, I think we need to learn how to not reference everything to our own value of ourselves. Once we learn how to value ourselves outside of reference from the scenarios, circumstance, or events in our life, we'll recognize that our circumstances and events in our life are always created and characteristic of the feeling that we have in the moment. If you're happy as you can be, and it's not based on the external world, what in the external world is really going to change that? And I don't mean that with grandiose, horrific, immoral stuff in the world that's present, of course. But with many of the things that all of us face on a regular basis in regards to our own mental associations, in regards to what we're attached to and what we allow to take away from us, those are the things I think we need to focus on. And when I say focus on, I mean let go. I think letting go is a way to establish newness and give yourself a new key to open up a new door. Because letting go of old keys expresses to the world, expresses to yourself that newness needs to be established. And in allowing yourself to sort of pivot and align yourself with whatever it is that you want, you sort of create your own key. You sort of become the key in a lot of ways, just in essence of you being able to take the steps necessary to get what you need to get to go where you need to go. And I think that's all it really takes, is us doing our best at being us. Us doing our best at continuing to mold, develop, grow, and not keep ourselves so stagnant and focal pointed. There's not a single one way to be you, and I've said this in a couple of videos. There's not a single one way to be you. And I think that was one of the most freeing realizations for me, because it really makes you think about the way you interact and the way you go about every situation in your life. You don't have to react the way you reacted. And I don't mean that to say we do that to hark on ourselves and in reference to past and be like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done this. Because I like to think there's really no should or could have, only things that you have done. And it's important to accept the things that you have done so you can actually heal what you need to heal and do what you need to do in the future to align yourself with something that you feel is more befitting of you. And once we find that thing that's more befitting, it's about appreciating ourselves through it and before it. Appreciating ourselves and loving ourselves for what we have yet to experience in a real way. And what that means to me is being happy before your circumstances are aligned with your happiness. It's always about how you feel in the present tense. If we believe in the law of vibration, the law of detachment, law of assumption, all of them have to do with our current state. All the universal laws have to do with a current state or present. And whatever we interject into that present is always going to be the thing that forms our reality, that shapes the way we live the world, that shapes the way we interact with ourselves and others. When we give ourselves enough space to occupy and we love ourselves for being able to occupy space, then there's nothing really necessary to make you happy other than that. And I don't mean that to say we can't derive our happiness from external things. I mean that to say we have to have a foundation of happiness and love and appreciation in who we are. And once we do that, then whatever who we are expresses and goes towards will also be representative of that love that we carry, because we are not separate from any situation we are a part of. And we're bringing something to a situation every time. If we are in a very negative mood, if we are in a very negative headspace and we're just projecting out into the external world, even if we encounter a good situation, we might turn it bad. Even if we encounter negativity, we might make it worse. We have to recognize that it's always our contribution. And sometimes, even myself included, I think my default in the past, and maybe even sometimes in the current, is to sort of be ambivalent, sort of not have a preference in what's going on. And I think sometimes we mistake our detachedness from that with actually making a choice, because we don't assign meaning to something outside of us. We just think that that's the end goal. That's all we needed to do. But what I've noticed is when we treat everything like that, it has a certain numbness. It has a certain dullness to it. And I think that's why a lot of people get bored and go back into the familiar ways of the past that caused their emotions to spike and deplete and go down and up over and over again so we can feel. And I think part of that is because we haven't really given ourselves anything to experience. Not in the sense of things in the external world and in events, people, places, but things within ourselves. We haven't actually taken a chance to recognize that there is someone experiencing everything outside of us. And that person experiencing it is the lens by which we see everything that we do experience. And until we recognize that lens, we won't really know how to focus it on what we want until we actually take part in the focusing. And what I mean by take part in the focusing, I mean actually doing the things necessary to make our viewpoint aligned with what we actually want to experience. And I don't mean that to say being delusional, but to say that we're already delusional sometimes in our negative viewpoints. Okay, that person doesn't like you as much as you want them to. Does that mean that you have to dislike yourself? It does not. It does not. Okay, you didn't achieve this certain something when you wanted to achieve it. Does that mean you'll never achieve it? No. Does that mean you can't achieve anything? No. Nothing has ever really been a real cause for us to strip away our validity and ability to even do anything. And when I say ability to do anything, I mean our ability to do anything. I don't necessarily mean any specific thing, but every specific thing has a way of doing it. To know it's humanly possible means you too can do it. And sometimes it's just about finding the certain avenues and certain channels to actually allow yourself to do that. But I think first and foremost, it's not even about figuring out the how so much as it is figuring out what it is and giving it to yourself in the present sense. I think the thing that gives us a new key most of all is giving ourselves a new perspective, is giving ourselves a viewpoint, a feeling that already encompasses all the things that we want to see behind that door. In that way, whenever we do open the door, it's like we already have it, because the door has always been open and there's never been a key in the first place. It's always been in reference to our ability to give ourselves a feeling and be happy where we are for what we have yet to gain. And recognize that our experience has always been something that comes from us, not in the sense of we create everything around us, but in the sense of how you feel is what you attract. What you attract is what you are, and what you are is what you experience. So if what you are is what you experience and you choose to assign some happiness to yourself and you practice learning how to feel good in the essence of just being appreciative of the world around you and the world within you, then what else could you experience but that? At least that's what I like to think. And of course, there are certain limitations. I don't mean this to say we could do this all the time and in perfect harmony, but to say that, to recognize that certain things like that exist or it is possible, open a lot of more doors for our own expression, our own understanding of ourselves. And once we give ourselves an opportunity to not base ourselves off of everything external, we'll recognize how a lot of things don't really contribute to us. Instead, we think they do. Instead, we think that this is what I need to do in order to feel this way, when our feeling has always been vested in our relationship to ourselves. Because how we feel about a certain things is always in proportion to how we feel about ourselves and how much we've allowed our value of ourselves to transfer over to that item, situation, event, and expectation. All that to say, we need to give ourselves our space that we already occupy. And we need to remember all that we already are. Because you never find new parts of yourself. You just become aware of more parts of yourself that already exist. So thank you. Keep being y'all. Keep being great. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Doing what you can, what you have. A lot on the way. A lot are here. A lot of you already seen. Pre-order for my book went live yesterday, in proportion to the day I recorded this. If this video comes out before, it should come out before October 24th. Please check out that pre-order. Everybody who pre-orders before the 24th will be getting free shipping on my book and a signed copy. For international people, I know a lot of you are abroad, and I appreciate all of you guys just the same. Email me at profoundpondering@gmail.com, and we can get that sorted out. All that to say thank you. Keep being y'all. Keep being great. A lot here, a lot on the way.